It's a nighttime video. I'm getting old. My brain doesn't work like it used to. I can't think deeper than like 3 levels. So like if you say that this is something, I got it. And if you say that this is not something, I got it. But then if you say that this is not is something, then I get lost. You know what I mean? So if something isn't yes, not something, you got me. I can't fucking think anymore. The reason I say that is like I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with the wiring on this goddamn lawnmower. And it's terribly frustrating because I've got a manual for the engine, and I've got a manual for the lawnmower, neither of which are written to any kind of standard that I'm used to. And trying to understand what's going on with it is, coming from the outside, having never worked on either of these, it's ridiculous. If you zoom in too much on the schematic, you can't tell whether or not the wires are crossing over each other, which has a specific symbol, or if they're connected to one another, which has another specific symbol. And so that wires that are crossing over each other are in fact connected in some cases, and in some cases that look like they're connected, they're in fact crossing over one another. And so I've got that going on. And then as far as the engine manual goes, I'm using a schematic for an ignition system that is on the engine that I'm no longer using. So most of the wiring that was on the engine, which is still on the engine that is not being used, is what I'm having to use as my model. And then I'm having to patch in the new ignition system that I've put on it. It shouldn't really be a problem, other than the fact that there's a great big disconnect between the connector of the engine and the connector of the mower. You see, right at that point is where I have to switch between 2 different manuals, because the manual for the mower cuts off at the engine and the manual for the engine cuts off at the mower. Some of the wires that are coming from the mower that go to the engine just go to nowhere and apparently have never been hooked up. And then some of the wires that come from the mower to the engine do not go to what they say they should go to. For example, I've got like some power wires that should be powering like a oil lamp that are coming in and going directly to the engine block as a ground. It's just absolute chaos. And every time I try to route it out, I get sidetracked into some other issue that is presenting itself. So it's a lot to keep an eye on. It's a lot to keep your mind wrapped around when things aren't, not, are, yes, sometimes no things. You see what I'm getting at here? So then the fun part is that this is kind of where I'm going with the craziness here, is that there's a switch on each of the sidebar control levers that do something to the ignition. They do something to the mower deck, and they do something to the fuel. So if the bars are out, it does allow power to go to the starter. If the bars are in, it cuts off power to the starter, but then also grounds. Sorry, if the bars are out, they ground the fuel solenoid. So then they have switches with multiple outputs, where the outputs are sometimes open and sometimes closed. And basically each switch has like 3 outputs. One to the mower deck, one to the starter, and one to the fuel cutoff relay. And they're normally open / normally closed. They all run through the emergency brake switch. So, for example, my starter wire, the wire that goes to the starter that tells it to go ahead and start, takes off out of the key, goes into the emergency brake switch, comes out of the emergency brake switch, goes into the left-hand control panel, comes out of that, goes into the right-hand control lever panel, comes out of that, then it goes into a relay. Then it goes out of the relay and it goes into the starter relay. And the relay that it goes into before the starter is activated on or off based on whether or not you're sitting in the seat. And the seat has power based on what you see what I'm saying. So there's like multiple loops for all this safety bullshit. And I can't figure it out. It's pissing me off. So now I'm back to a point where if I just push power out of the switch, if I jump a lead directly off the positive wire of the battery to the output of the switch, which is telling the starter to start, I can get the starter to spin. But with my brand new switch plugged into the little plug, it doesn't work. So that's where I'm at right now. And I don't even want to look at it anymore because it's so just fucking. It's obviously engineered in a way that makes sense to somebody. And I would imagine it's engineered in a way that is the simplest way possible and the most effective way possible. But I cannot visualize it in my head. And between the two diagrams I have, I cannot fucking figure it out. So it's like, at this point in time, I have power coming into my switch. I have ground coming into my switch with the key. That's what we're talking about here. And when I turn the key, no power goes out of the switch. It's a brand new switch. The old switch doesn't work and the new switch doesn't work. The new switch worked earlier today when I turned the key, only for fuel though. So when I turned the key, the fuel solenoid would click on and off, on and off, on and off when I turn the key on and off, right? It doesn't work now. And nothing changed. The starter never worked. So I don't even know if the fuel solenoid switch is not on the same circuit as the starter. The fuel solenoid kicks on and off on some other fucking circuit that I haven't figured out because it's just brain garbage. Like they literally have the wires color coded and then have little indicator arrows coming off them, little flags coming off the wires with like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And coming off the purple wire, it's labeled G. So you go look what G says, and G literally says purple. It's like great. The fucking wiring diagram shows it. It's a purple wire. It's colored in purple. And then the G references you to a chart that says purple. And it doesn't even say whether it's like positive, you know what I mean? If it's a power, if it's a ground, you know, it's just like absolute chaos. So you almost have to know what you're doing with these before you start playing with them because the information is just not there in a way that should be, it's not there in a way that's easily accessible to somebody coming from the outside. So I'm going to play with it again tomorrow. I got the engine running today. The fucking hydraulics work. It drives back and forth. And as long as the engine is completely unplugged from the wiring system, it runs just fine. As soon as I plug it into the wiring system, it shuts off. What's really funny is if I have the key off on the wiring system and I plug it in, it continues to run. But then when I turn the key on, it shuts off. Which might have something to do with the fact that I have like power wires going directly to ground on the engine block, and whatever. I don't know who's done much of this thing before I got it, but that's where I'm at with it. But yeah, to the point of getting old. Like I can't think my way through this shit anymore. I get too distracted too easily. And I get frustrated too easily. That's the point of this video here. It's all about getting old and how you just can't tolerate bullshit anymore. It's so hard to like get through it. You need to leave it to the next generation. Hopefully they'll figure it out. They won't. And I'm getting old.